Deputies submitted their resignations. The US basketball team, the Boston Celtics, are facing repercussions in China after one of their players, Enes Kanter, posted a video on Twitter voicing his support for Tibetan independence. He also called the Chinese President Xi Jinping a brutal dictator. China has reacted swiftly, blocking his name from the social media site Weibo and cutting Wednesday's live broadcast of the NBA game between the Celtics and the New York Knicks. The renowned Dutch conductor Bernard Haitink has died. He was 92. He's been described as one of the most humane interpreters of classical music, famed for his work with great symphonic and operatic masterpieces from Wagner to Strauss and Mozart. Nick Hyam looks back on his life.
The Prisoner's Chorus from Beethoven's opera Fidelio, conducted at Covent Garden by Bernard Haitink, a man who seemed much too mild-mannered to make a great conductor. He'd started his career in his native Holland, spent 27 years as principal conductor of the Amsterdam Concertgebouw. In Britain, he was principal conductor of the London Philharmonic Orchestra, music director at Glyndebourne Opera, and then music director at Covent Garden for 15 years, until 2002. Other conductors might behave like dictators. Haitink was a team player who famously said little at rehearsals, but nonetheless won the respect of his players and the admiration of critics and audiences.
BBC News.
Hello and welcome to Business Matters with me, Rob Young. On the programme today, we'll get the latest in the roller coaster journey of the supposedly trendy office sharing company WeWork. We'll discuss a plan to hand out free cryptocurrency to 1 billion people in exchange for a scan of their eyes, and why Vienna's art galleries and museums say they've been forced to turn to a social media platform known for its explicit content.
The most bizarre piece is probably the Venus of Willendorf, which is a wonderful fertility figurine, which is 30,000 years old. And it was declared pornography by Facebook. It's a real twilight zone. Who is deciding what is pornography, what is not suitable for the public?
We'll get into that later. As always, we're joined by two guests from opposite sides of the world. With us today, Paddy Hirsch in Los Angeles. He's a contributing editor at US National Public Radio. Afternoon, Paddy.
Hello, Rob. How you doing?
I'm very well, hope you are too. And also with us today, Rachel Cartland in Hong Kong. She's an author, writer and expert on that place. Morning, Rachel.
Good morning to you.
Good to have you both back on the show. Now, back in mid-2019, the trendy office-sharing company WeWork was in the ascendancy. It wasn't just about renting desks, according to its founder, Adam Newman, talking a few years ago.
WeWork is the office space of tomorrow. The future is about light, innovation, creativity. It's going from me to we. We give you space that will inspire you, uplift you, and help you innovate the product.
Well, despite all the hype, things went horribly wrong for WeWork. It was forced to cancel the stock market listing, get rid of its charismatic founder, and accept a bailout from Japan's SoftBank. The company was at one point worth $47 billion. Well, today, the loss-making firm did finally list on the stock market, but nothing like that kind of valuation, just $9 billion. Peter Evis is a journalist at the New York Times who's been following WeWork's roller coaster journey.
It's still hemorrhaging cash. We don't know what its future's like, but yeah, they managed to get a stock market listing done, and that is an important step in any attempt to try and build a sustainable business.
Well, there was an initial attempt back in 2019 for WeWork to float on the stock market. Just remind us why that went awry.
Yeah, that was a traditional IPO where they were going to sell their shares for the first time. And that was at a period when there was a lot of hype around WeWork, and people were quite willing to believe some of the grand promises that its founder, Adam Newman, made. And then as they started to look more closely at the numbers and see some of the problems with the way the company was governed and led, investors made it pretty clear that they weren't willing to buy WeWork shares if they were to go public. And that, led to them having to withdraw the IPO, which in turn meant they weren't going to get the proceeds from the stock offering, which meant they were short of cash at a time when they were using up a lot of cash and they were about to go bankrupt, which is when SoftBank stepped in.
So what has changed then?
So what has changed is that, well, I mean, you've got to also recognize that in the interim we had the pandemic, which was horrible for anyone operating office space because no one was going into the office, and they're still not really in any great numbers, as is the case in London, New York, and San Francisco and other places. So they had to deal with that, and they managed to get through that. They cut their expenses quite a lot. They did that partly by going to landlords and saying, we can't afford to pay what you're asking, and you know you can't get anybody else, so cut our rent, because the WeWork model is they don't own property, they lease office space from landlords, and they turn around and charge members a fee for coming in. And so they got better deals from their landlords, they fired a bunch of people, and they cut other expenses, and they're just hoping the revenues rise from here as the economy grows and people start coming back to the office.
So the hybrid way of working that many companies are introducing because of the pandemic has been good for WeWork.
Oh, we don't know that yet, because there's plenty of office space that they can go back to. They may not need WeWork. They may decide that the office space that they have and they've been leasing, for years is good enough, and they'll just keep using that. They may cut back and say, well, you know what, every now and again when we need to get employees in, we can maybe rent space in the WeWork, and that's kind of what WeWork's hoping for, is that they're part of that need to have some sort of like flexible space, they call it.
Adam Newman, one of the co-founders of WeWork, is still a part owner of the company. Do we know how well he might do out of this stock market flotation?
Yeah, well, he's already been paid large hundreds of millions of dollars to, reduce his control over the company, because he was, as a co-founder, he had a lot of control. So in order to sort of release his grip, he was given, or paid rather, hundreds of millions of dollars, but he also retained a stake in the company of between, 8 and 9, 10, 11%, it's not clear yet, which is worth coming up to I guess 800 million to $1 billion. And he can't sell those shares yet. I don't even know if he wants to, but after a lockup period expires, he would be able to. And it is interesting to see him kind of on the periphery of this today. He was back in New York. He held a little gathering down at a kind of swanky hip hotel, and it was just interesting to see him do that on this big day. I don't know why he did that, but he did.
Adam Newman was responsible for creating a lot of the buzz, a lot of the excitement around WeWork a number of years ago. Is it still seen as an exciting tech property company, or is it just seen as a property landlord these days?
Well, they're trying to have both. They're trying to sell themselves as being this much more sober company that's focusing on its mission, which is to, put people into its spaces, and their CEO is not really like Adam Newman, and so he's communicating that message that we're sticking to our business and not going off on these kind of wild adventures that Adam Newman did,